New York, New York. Does it taste right? Does it feel right? New York, New York. Does it burn bright? All the starlight. Do you know my name? Do you even care? Do you love when I take you up there? New York, New York. Does it taste nice? Does it feel right? New York, New York. Does it taste like what it burns like? Do you know my name? Do you even care? Do you love when I take you up there? Baby, won't you take me down? Make it like you really care. I am feeling good up there. Just keep the diamonds in my hair. Make me feel good right now, like everything does in this town. Lights of snow and popping corks, money drops in old New York. Baby, won't you really hurt? Make it like it really burns. I am feeling good right there. Just keep the diamonds in my hair. Make me feel good right now, like everything does in this town. Lights of snow and popping corks, money drops in old New York. New York, New York. Does it taste right? Does it feel right? New York, New York. Does it burn bright? All the stars.
I thought the work was great. Like, I mean, it's a regional show, it's small market, and the level of the work was at a higher caliber than what I expected. So, truthfully, when you start to look at this work and all the effort that everyone puts into it, you really appreciate the time they take on it and being able to represent not only culturally where they're from, but, you know, for their clients' sake, the level of craft and I think just dedication.
My first reaction was like, oh God, there's so much public transportation stuff, like so much stuff that has to do with like government. And I couldn't figure out why. And then we, asked Tia, so she gave me the answers to that. But so I walked into it not knowing exactly what was about to kind of like happen. I think there's a few outstanding piece of work, but the general level was a little okay. And also I think sometimes it's hard because, we were so used to like huge award shows, whereas you see the Grand Prix that everyone, they've been circulating in the industry, everyone knows about. So it was refreshing actually to see work that I haven't seen before. A couple of things I've seen, but so those were like, oh yeah, I know this. So I think it was like overall there were like some outstanding pieces that I really appreciated, and I'm glad that I got to see them.
Pleasantly surprised. I think great standard of work. Like I say, I was surprised about the level of craft. Pleased to see it, and lovely to see the people from down under raising the bar.
I guess there's always some pieces that you wish they just pushed a bit further, as with any show, but I think overall it was a really, really amazing lot of work that we saw.
I saw everything like in the span of a long day. So it was a proper immersion in the work. So lots of good work.
Yeah, there's a lot of diversity, so much, a lot of different types of work.
I think it's super interesting. It's very nice to see how people get all the different little bits of graphic design that go around, especially now that there's so many graphic design websites and books, etc., and how they interpret it based on their specific culture. So that has been really fun to see.
But sometimes when the award is very local, you would imagine that the quality wouldn't be as good. But I'm very surprised on how world class some of the work is.
I'm really impressed. It's exciting to see the kind of work that's coming out of Perth. One of my favorite categories has been the creativity for good. I thought that was a really great category to see so much work submitted for that. I love when brands can do something altruistic outside of outside of advertising, they're actually doing good for the world to elevate humanity. So that was really great to see. And I kind of secretly wish there was a lot more humor coming out, but I think that's just the sign of the times, potentially, and a lot of really good very emotional work coming out this year. So it's great.
There definitely were some standout. I think there was if I were to look at the overall work, there wasn't much comedy at all, which I generally love to judge or to just, in terms of advertising, I think comedy, it stands out. There was very little comedy. So that was one of the things I got out of it. There's some smart, innovative ideas,
I think it's terrific. Yeah. I think certainly once we established a groove as a panel, we all had a fairly shared sense of great ideas, great taste, great craft, and quickly certain work stood out independent of us.
We saw some absolutely fantastic work. I think as particularly we thought it was really strong around design. We thought there were some beautiful pieces that we saw. And we felt like in some of the film work, there was some really world-class pieces there. And we think, I was proud as an ex-Perth person, but it was really nice to see the other judges responding in that way, going like, this is international. These people, this person couldn't work anywhere, which was great.
There was a great lot of design. I was really surprised because I wasn't in my jury, and I was really delighted to see so much beautiful attention to detail in design. A lot of the work that came through on top for all of us was stuff that is in a category that is quite hackneyed and hard to find a fresh way of approaching. And so it was actually great to see a really fresh take on otherwise, cliched areas of public service.
The industry's changing, and a lot of creatives are moving, and a lot of accounts are moving from outside of Western Australia. I think getting a sense of the work that you're looking at through the lens of this is what is being produced actually, and this is not we don't have a lot of budget, we don't have a lot of money. The creative requests are not necessarily highly creative. So within a world like that, within a context like that, doing something that is actually stunning is great. It's even more than winning a Grand Prix somewhere else.
It was good to approach the work with a clear mind, and try and look at the work as it presented itself, rather than to try and compare it to other work that I've seen coming out of the great colony of Australia.
From my understanding, Perth is a small place, and so it's impressive to see how much talent and good work is coming out of there.
Pleasantly surprised, and it's nice to see. It's sort of work that's leveled up. I guess you're punching above your weight, is what Sarah was saying to me. So I really enjoyed seeing the craft.
I did not know what to expect, to be fair. It's one of these things, and I've had experience judging other shows that were regional, and you're always pleasantly surprised. However, in this one, there was a lot of work that was rooted in some deep cultural thing that's particular to that space or that place. And I loved being able to see how that was explored and pushed out.
I think it's interesting because you can see that there's a certain style to the work, some familiarity to it, as opposed to when you judge a festival where there's work from all around the world. You see stuff that's culturally different, and in this case, you can tell there's the same some of the culture references and stuff. It's obviously come from the same place.
I'm just reminded, having spent years working in Perth, that I'm reminded of how small budgets are. I mean, there was a moment where we were reading through one of the case studies and it said, the budget was $1,500. And I think the whole room was like, what? That's crazy. And, but, I remember, working with those budgets at less and I'm always so impressed of how, how much gets done for so little, and people really take kind of pride in making it as great as it can be, even if the budget is small.
My expectations of the kind of work, creative and I guess craft of it wasn't surprising. I kind of had the expectations, well, this is a smaller market. It's Perth, it's part of Australia. They've got some challenges there that, in a way I wasn't surprised with the kind of work that we saw.
I think it was very interesting to see this, I guess, more relaxed approach, in the sense, a little bit playful, but still in that sense of design that we're going now, which is more refined and like mixing the serious design with the playfulness has been really interesting to see.
Pleasantly surprised, as I said, with the level of insight and the craft, right? Because I believe that an idea is only great if it looks great. And especially the category that I was chairing was about the craft category, and seeing like all the expressions like editing, cinematography, art direction, directing, acting. So it's great work, fantastic work.
Keeping things really simple is what I always say, and finding a really great insight, something that consumers something that will resonate with consumers, I think is really the key. But again, simplicity is always a good thing. So make sure that whatever the concept is, it's really clear to consumers.
Go with your heart, really, because it's important to note that you have to fight for the good idea. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to kind of lay it on the line and explain to your client why you want to do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Because small clients with small budgets sometimes, unfortunately, could be small-minded. And as creatives, we're supposed to be able to expand that and show them within what they have how to be able to do something different. Whether they're asking for a small print ad that you could take that same budget and do something experiential with, which is just fantastic, to be able to have that opportunity to work with people like that.
I guess my gut reaction to that is I think like a strong idea and a good idea is a strong idea and a good idea. And it's, I think that, that matters whether it's a small client or a big client. At the end of the day, like how authentic the idea is to the audience, so it's important, and how it'll communicate. So I don't know that the market size is like such a big factor.
I come from Italy. I started working for like super, super small accounts. Mm-hmm. Then eventually it was like Publicis and Heineken and all of that stuff, but it wasn't always the case. And I still know a lot of people back in Italy who like do amazing work with like, 2 nuts, mm-hmm. which is insane. Mm-hmm. So I think the budget is not your limitation. And also like as you're, as a creative mind, like that shouldn't even be your problem. I mean, unless you get to a higher level, if you're like ECD, whatever, you're dealing with budget and logistics. But if you're the creative that is coming up with idea, getting briefed, and then, presenting the work and like trying to get a client to fall in love with your idea, small budget shouldn't matter. You should literally just take whatever comes your way and challenge yourself, whether that be like tampons or the best beer in the world. I think that the creative approach should be the same. And then, of course, there's going to be limitations at some point. They're going to hit you, and you're going to just take your amazing idea and make it into like a slightly less amazing just because of the constrictions. But that shouldn't never play a role. I think that is like the creative spirit is the creative spirit. That's it.
I think the biggest thing is think about the idea first. I think, unfortunately, a lot of the time we go straight to craft. Whereas I think thinking about a big idea and then how the craft supports the idea, it's kind of a 2-step process rather than it being a 1-step process. So I think about the big idea and then how far can we push that idea.
My area of expertise is animation, and all the work that I've seen, there was only one animation piece, and I think sometimes with smaller budgets, maybe not super complex 3D animations, but some more simple animation techniques can bring ideas to life in an interesting way, and especially like crafty ways. So maybe trying to use more animation.
I've hired a bunch of people from Australia and from Perth over here in the States, and I think what I look for is people who seek out opportunity and create their own opportunities. And I think the more you can do that within the environment, there's no point saying, well, I only work in a small city in Australia. You have to kind of behave like you're playing the game with the world. And so I think do that. The other thing that was a bit surprising is, as we were judging the diamond skulls, it's kind of like it reminded me of that old saying, if you miss 100% of the goals, you don't take. And I think we were like, why aren't more people entering into these categories? Because there was some of the work that is going to win big at the show that they hadn't even entered into the diamond skulls. And I'm like, you're mad. Like, you've got to be in it because you could have been, of the year. So make sure you're in it.
I think any award show has some standouts, and then the work is really crafted in a way that allows it to shine. And whether it's the big shows or the small shows, I think knowing how the work in other shows stands out, and the methods, whether it's craft or the way to put a case study together or the quality of the work, they should really be looking at other shows to see how it's done. And I don't think it should be any different.
I think maybe really trying to think of a way to stand out. Of course, it's always nice to see what are the trends and try to see what's working, but also try to think of how can you approach that in your own way.
I think even when I'm looking at candidates to hire, I'm always looking for great taste, great concept, great executions. And a lot of people have great taste, but they don't know how to make anything. A lot of people know how to execute, but they don't have any ideas. It's pretty special when you find somebody that can do all three. And I think I saw some stuff that had great ideas today. But the execution could have been pushed a little bit further.
Because as judges, you're looking at so much work, like there's a lot of entries. It becomes even more important that the idea is like the immediacy of the idea comes through, like that it doesn't, like the fastest you can get it, like what is this trying to communicate? What's the feeling I get? Like, I think that immediacy is just like super important when you're, going through like so many entries.
A lot of problems sometimes come from a lack of strategy or a lack of insight, and so you look through the work and you're like, it's beautifully crafted, but it doesn't mean anything. In this case, it was very annoying because we saw some stuff that was coming from a very insightful place and what we felt like very unique in a way, especially because it's like Western Australia. So like, it's tapping into some cultural things that you don't necessarily have in Europe or in America. But the crafting sometimes was falling a little short. And that was the main thing. It's like, you have a great idea. It's those like that scenario, like you have a great idea, but it's executed poorly, So, and that creates a little bit of a, that becomes a struggle sometimes. That was the main. There were other things too. Some stuff was a little too convoluted. Is that a word? Right?
Convoluted. Yeah.
So it just felt like there was an idea, there was an execution that could become something very, very interesting, but then it became too many layers. Like the campaign was trying to say too many different things when I think the best campaigns are always like, one single focus is like one thing that you want to try and say and you go for it, You kind of like own that one piece and you just go all the way down, especially if you do like integrated.
It's more about thinking about the idea. Even when it comes down to budgets, the idea can surpass the budget. but then you can think about the way you're going to craft the idea, and then you can adjust accordingly. But coming back to a great idea and then how you're going to execute it, I think is the real takeaway from the show.
Category specifics are important. You have to know you can't not take one piece of work and put it into every category because it may not work. So think about the context of the category that you're putting the work in. If something is for good, make sure it is hitting that note and then explain why for good is for good, because a lot of times people go, I have one type of work, I can hit it in this category, that category, and this category. The problem is it may not work only because it's specific to what that need is, if that makes any sense. It's a bit rambly, but the truth of the matter is be purposeful when you're putting it into the categories. Just don't try to blanket it.
We're judging craft, right? So I think the craft is one way to describe it is basically attention to detail. So some of that, I think that is what we're looking for. It's just lots of attention to details.
Keeping the consumer in mind and ensuring that it has entertainment value. I think you lose sight sometimes when you're working on a brief of what will really be engaging and have people sort of feel something for your work. I think going back to the human truth and finding the right insight is key.
All work should have some kind of emotional hook, so it should elicit some kind of emotion, whether that's comedy and you're laughing, or the work affects you on a different kind of emotional level, so you feel empathy. Regardless of what it is, I think that when you can make people feel a certain kind of way after they're experiencing your work, then you've got a better chance of them reacting to the work because it means something. If it elicits no response, then it means it doesn't have any kind of meaning. So you'll just keep going on to the next thing. I think that's the same regardless of. And I'm assuming when you're looking at the work from a gold to a bronze or whatever the difference is, I think the work that's going to stand out and win a gold will be the one that creates some kind of emotional connection with the person who's viewing the work.
What we saw a bit is the fact of having a really good concept or idea, but not pushing through into the end in the sense of design. That happened a lot here.
I think some of the work could have done a lot better if they paid a bit more attention to craft and really taken the time to embellish all of the facets of the ideas. And the strong work was strong because there was a strong concept and the craft lived up to that strength. So I think if anything, the craft let down a couple of pieces, but they were still awarded.
Yes, keep at it. Fight the good fight.
Try to negotiate to have time. I think, that if you can't have money, that there's the three pillars, money, time, and quality.
Totally.
So if you don't have money and you want quality, you need time.
Yeah, I feel like the more you can really kind of go deep on the subject matter, the stronger the ideas and more authentic, and the more you'll kind of care about the work, which will push in and make it better.
I mean, try to forget that you're within a small space, just forget about all the limitations of, being in Western Australia and everything that people think or know about that place and the small business and the fact that the budgets are small. It's just look around, learn from everything that is happening in the world, look up to the award that have been winning, the work that have been winning awards in the previous years. And just try to understand what's the, deconstruct it, try to understand why they work so well. It's the craft, is the insight, usually is everything, a good campaign is good from A to Z. Sometimes it's just nicely crafted. The case study is just nicely crafted. That's one thing is I think case studies need to be much stronger in terms of like the storytelling of especially when it comes to integrated, or like when you're trying to bring a point across and explain why your campaign works. You need to showcase more. And there's so many case studies out there that you can take as an example of like, this works and this doesn't. Just being super consistent and linear throughout the whole process, and just looking up to what is winning around you, and just like be like, okay, I can take this as an example. This case study done, it can even be like 10 years ago, I don't know, in Europe, by this brand that is like has a similar tone to what I want to do, and so you kind of like take that and to bring it into your work.
Well, especially now, I think creativity can be very complex, daunting, with also new emerging technologies coming out in the world. That I think that the main thing is to just still try to find a way to be positive and enjoy the creativity, and just get back up and find that sort of fire in you.
Keep doing what you're doing, because it's amazing, and I feel very fortunate to be able to judge this year, and thank you for sharing your work with the world.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, make sure you're in it, that you're a contender, because you're not going to win if you're not even entering. But look, I think we saw work that was maybe of a really high standard, but maybe didn't push itself as far as it could have. And then we saw work that really like lifted itself above what is kind of the kind of style of the day, for instance, and went to new places and took risks. So I think don't be afraid to take risks, because that's what's going to it'll kill you or make you great, and that's where the best work comes from.
Any work that gets noticed in the award shows, or any great work, there has to be some kind of leap. So it's not just about doing work that is good and seems like this is an awesome solution, right? Oh, this is a great solution for this problem. I think the stuff that really stands out is is work that becomes memorable, and the stuff that becomes memorable has some kind of leap, right? So there's been some massive creative leap that allows it to stand out. I look for those leaps, like what's going to allow you to take work that's pretty good to being excellent. And I think that when you're in a place of like, this hasn't been done before, and it feels scary, is this right or wrong? Then at least you're in a place of innovation. So it's not repeating what's been done before. So that's one way to go about winning awards, is creating innovative work that's never been done before. So it will stand out and it will be memorable. And the other way is by understanding pure craft in something. So whether it's writing copy and crafting that in a perfect way, or art directional production, that's the other way. So it may not have that creative leap of like, it's been never been done before, this thing is so amazing, you're not going to forget it. The other way to win awards is like just being very mindful and purposeful with every decision you make to turn something into something that's beautifully crafted.
Just keep up. We all survive in the end, hopefully.
Yeah. Also that thing, I know New York's got its own reputation. But I'll tell you, I saw so much stuff that featured WA, in landscapes, right? Just majestic backdrops. And yeah, you can come to New York and work, but it seems like you live in a pretty clean, amazing place. So if you're making money off of woods and pictures, and you can do that in WA, could be a lot worse.
Yeah, some of the work we've seen today is world class. The level of craft, the level of ideas, the level of insights, absolutely, yes.
Perfect.